Hi, I'm here with my friend Angela.
Hi.
And I've been wanting to pick her brain about astrology for a while. So we actually printed out our charts, and I think we're gonna just go over them a little, and then I just would love to hear everything you have to say about astrology. I know it's kind of a lot. First off, how long have you been into astrology?
Since maybe 2010. I kind of got into it accidentally. I had all this gut stuff, and so someone told me about Ayurveda, and I was doing all this gut health, and I got into this Ayurvedic community, and then there's a woman in the community who is a Vedic astrologer, and I was like, oh, this seems interesting. So I went and got a Vedic astrology reading, and then and it ended up being 3 hours, and there was a lot of very detailed stuff in there that just made me super intrigued, and then I after that was like, oh, I'm so curious, I want to learn all about it, and this is Western astrology, so I've looked at sort of both Vedic and Western, and there's all sorts of different things to do with it.
Do you have a stronger leaning towards one or the other, or are they just different?
I don't know as much about Vedic astrology. It's not as accessible in America, and it's so incredibly intricately detailed. There's some overlaps in terms of the archetypes have the same meanings, the different astrology, zodiac signs and stuff. In Vedic astrology, you have not just your birth chart, but then you have a chart from the perspective of every single planet, making that the ascendant. So you can have literally hundreds of charts, charts on charts, and then they do, it's insane. Then transits, and then you can do all the, so you can do some of this to some extent with all the layers here, but Vedic astrology is way more
in depth,
thousands
is
times more.
Is there a training, if you wanted to become a Vedic astrologer, is there a training you can go to?
Yeah, so the word for Vedic astrology is Jyotish, Jyotish, and there are people that do that kind of training. I would imagine it's probably more legit if you're somewhere in India, but I don't know. So the person I went to is trained in Jyotish, and she had someone teach her. Wow. So it's possible.
Cool. Do you want to do it?
I'd be curious.
It'd be
to
cool,
know
a little side gig.
Yeah, I don't know if I would be good at reading people's charts succinctly. Before our session, I gave her my birth information, and she had all of these charts pre-made, not just my birth chart, but all these other charts for all the planets before we went and talked, and she had it's very mathematically detailed. And my brain likes that, but I think I would be overwhelmed with how do I summarize succinctly all this stuff.
So essentially, they have the same signs. Vedic astrology still has Gemini and Taurus. And
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlaps.
So what I want to start with, just because I think this will be 101 for people, because I feel there's people who heard of the zodiac and heard of astrology, and maybe they've read their horoscope in the newspaper or something. And so maybe they don't realize how deep you can go with this. They might know their sun sign. Right. When you ask someone what their sign is, it's really just their sun sign. Right. What does it mean for it to be the sun sign?
When you tie it into astronomy, then all the signs are on the ecliptic, which is a plane. If you think of the sun and all the planets that orbit around it, it's mostly generally in a flat pancake or a plate shape, and then out looking around that ring far out from our perspective are constellations. Oh god, I could go on. The stars aren't actually next to each other, right?
But from our perspective.
But ancient peoples made shapes and said, oh, that looks like a bear, whatever. And we have generally divided that plane into 12 sectors. And since a circle's 360 degrees, each of those is about 30 degrees. And so if you say your sun is in Leo, that means that from the perspective of Earth, the sun is in front of the constellation of Leo, and then embodies those archetypes. So each of the different zodiac signs is, I like to, an easy way to think of it for me is if you're playing a video game, Mario World, and you have 12 different characters to choose from, and they each have different pros and cons. This one's really good at this. They each have their own personality. So I just think of the 12 zodiac signs as just 12 different characters.
Yeah, archetypes.
Yeah, exactly.
So going back to the sun sign idea, there's basically, what I'm hearing is that probably ancient people noticed that there's these constellations that kind of went in a line in the sky, and then the sun sign is when you're born on this planet.
Right.
It lines up with that constellation and the sun. Is
Yeah.
that kind of the idea?
Yeah. So because the sun seems, from the perspective of Earth, to be shifting through each of these 12 constellations through the year, like generally it's a month. You know, people in 1 month, and there's some, you know, it's not like 1st and 30th, but people born within a certain month are under the same sun sign.
Okay, gotcha.
Ish.
And so the same goes for like when you have a moon sign, it's like where the moon and the constellation line up from when you were born.
Right.
So that's why I defined...
We're talking about birth chart stuff,
Yeah.
Like
so
your natal chart.
Is there other charts besides birth charts?
You can do transit charts, you can do progress charts. There's a lot of.
Is there like a chart for today?
Yeah.
Whoa. How do you think of like horoscope, like the thing you read in the newspaper? How does that relate to all this?
So what they do in the newspaper is go by the sun sign. They're looking at whatever's going on in the constellations currently, and they're looking at how each person's archetype is going to be impacted by those events. There's so many aspects that are happening all the time. You can pick and choose whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's like mega important ones that, you know, you hear a lot of, like once in a lifetime, or this
like all the planets lined up. Or,
right. Yeah. Then you can say what are the qualities, what are the archetypes or the qualities of these different planets, and how do they impact and interplay with different people with different sun signs. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to start with yours, since you probably know a lot about it?
It makes me think of when you do the cat's cradle with the string, and you like create a shape.
Yeah,
that's
so crazy. So what I'm noticing, so as my novice astrology mind is looking, I see that there's all these symbols, these black symbols, and then there's the colorful symbols, which are clearly the different signs, right? Like there's Gemini and Cancer.
Yep.
So I can see that, and then I'm assuming these black symbols are like the planets, mostly.
Yep.
So, and yours looks like all of your planets are on this top section.
Yep.
Except for these two, I guess.
Yeah. And this is essentially the horizon. So it's like the view, and this is the earth below, and this is the sky above. So like when I was born, pretty much everything was in the sky. There was nothing below. So if you like look up, you could see almost all the planets.
Whoa.
And there's actually, you can people divide down into, like, I guess it's like north, south, east, and west hemispheres, and they have different qualities of like self versus community and intro and extra. And
and then for me, I have like
you're like a nice balance all the way. If you look at like this way and this way and this way and this way, you're one of those enlightened people, is what they say, because you're like in each quadrant.
I feel like I have a lot missing in these two. What are these two?
Leo and Virgo.
Interesting.
You got a lot going on.
That's what we're in right now.
Yeah, we're
just
like
an empty slate. But yeah, I notice I have a lot in Gemini.
Oh yeah,
and Taurus.
In your 11th house, which is ruled by Aquarius and is like all about community.
So what are the houses? So I got that we have the signs, and then we have the planets.
Yeah.
What are the houses? How does that like tie into it?
Houses are imagining that you could take your whole life and all the different things that you do and break it up into 12 different areas. For example, like, there's a house that's like your home life. There's one that's like your material possessions, and there's sort of some overlap. There's one that's like all about how you are at work. There's one for like how you are in community, how you are in like a deeply spiritual sense. And each of the houses actually corresponds to one of the 12 archetypal characters. In Western astrology. It's a little different in Vedic, but
where do the houses show up on this chart?
There's a number in the center here.
Okay.
And it starts...
And they're all different sizes.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. There's different house systems as well. Okay. There are some which are equal house system, and that's like the Vedic charts I've seen are equal house systems. They're just like everything is 30 degrees. But then these are, I think it's called Placidus house, and they change the house side depending on, it's essentially like how close or far you are from the equator, and like how that skews. If you imagine like you're drawing a line out from yourself to all the constellations, but then you like shift from the equator up farther north or farther south, and if you have that like string, it kind of skews it, and it gives you these irregularities.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's complex, because like look at the one on yours and the one on mine.
I have something
Yours is like twice as big.
it's called intercepted, and then I forgot what it's called when you have double, but you have double signs. So I have these intercepted signs, which means that these archetypes don't even have their own house. So like if each of the 12 characters has a place to live, then I have 2 houses that have no ruler, but then 2 houses that have 2 rulers, which is kind of messy. It's like things are sort of jumbled up.
So this house, like the first house.
The first house, yep.
Why does it have no ruler if it has Pisces in there?
You would say it's ruled by Capricorn, but Aquarius is in the house.
That's Aquarius.
There is no house that Aquarius rules. There's no house that Leo rules.
Gotcha. Because to rule it, you have to be on the edge.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So then the ones you're saying are double, are like
Gemini and Sagittarius for me, or like the 5th, 6th, and 10th, 11th house are doubled up.
Okay.
And there's a word for that, but
mine almost looks like more even.
Yours, yeah, you have more equal houses. They're not exactly the same, but you don't have interceptions like I do.
Wow. So what we should start with before we keep going is where did you get these charts? Like this one is a site that's free called astro.com, but you can go and just type in like free birth chart or natal chart. Natal chart, okay.
And there's lots of different engines that will do it.
You know what we should have done? Because I've seen you do this before, is you can do them together, can't you?
Synastry charts.
It's kind of cool to see.
And you can
them
also
side
do
by side,
composite charts too. You can
What's
do
that?
So synastry charts is when you have the 2 charts laid on top of each other and you compare like different planets to each other. But a composite chart is like taking the middle point and averaging for each of the individual signs.
Whoa.
And so it's like the chart of the relationship, if the relationship had a personality. So you would be like my sun sign and your sign and what's the middle point, and then it would place it there.
So you can do that on astro.com.
Yeah, astro.com has like I think it even has free. Vedic, and it's all free.
Nice. That's so
cool. The paid features are for all the transits. It will tell you like this is what's coming up. And then it will tell you not just like the planets, but like the quality. You know, if you have a Jupiter transit, Jupiter has these qualities and benevolence and wisdom and travel, and they're coming through this house and your house of habits or whatever. So like you're gonna have a lot of wisdom in your daily habits, whatever. Okay, so you can like mix and match with those. Okay, so the houses are sort of like different areas of your life, and they're represented by these different angles in the sky, sort of. They're how are they represented in the physical world? They're not. Yeah, it's all really sort of made up. Okay, that's good to know. But these are real. The planets are real. Yeah. And the zodiac or the different constellations are real in terms of our perspective. Yeah. And the houses are just another way to organize the systems, and so there's almost like 3 different systems overlapping. Oh my god, at least. Yeah, yeah. In this case, yeah. Sure. Crazy. Okay, so we have the sun, the moon, and all these planets, but then I wanted to know about True Node and Chiron, and then I've also heard you talk about like North Node and South Node. Is that on here anywhere? The North Node and South Node are meant to be like the metaphor of, say, your past lives and your future. And so if you think of the archetype, so for me, I'll just say I have my North Node, which way I'm heading is in Gemini, and my South Node is in Sagittarius. So for like these, I can look up like what is Gemini as an archetype, what is Sagittarius as an archetype. And so I can say there's these qualities about Sagittarius where in a lot of my, let's say my past lives or even in this life, where I've been doing a lot of Sagittarius things like going on lots of trips and travel, spending a lot of time alone, but meeting a lot of new people, but also just never really staying put anywhere. And so I've done a lot of that. And I mean, I was a military kid, so I can say, oh, I've traveled a lot. I've been a lot of places. Gemini is like small town community, and the people who just kind of grow up in a city and they always live there. And that is the new thing that I'm not used to. So for me, like living in a city and staying there is my future that I'm not used to it. It's maybe uncomfortable, and it's my growth place. Wow, cool. So that's like your North Node. Yeah. But they're not on this chart. This is the North Node right here. Oh, okay. And then, so your North Node is in Taurus. Okay, what does that mean? Home?
Isn't Taurus like a home buddy?
Taurus is like home. Taurus likes to have lots of good food, is like all ruled by Venus, planet of like love, just like wants to be like all the like good feeling things, you know. I want my skin to feel good, I want my clothes to feel soft, I want to have all the delicious flavors. And
that sounds like me.
Taurus could get kind of fat and lazy.
Yeah.
Taken to excess.
A little bit much.
Because you're just like, just pamper me. Taurus is pretty much like pamper me.
Yeah. I like it. So is the south node always opposite of the north node?
Yeah, it's whatever this number is just like minus 180 essentially. So yours is at, what is that, 11?
So it would probably be like...
Yeah, so yours is Scorpio. So it says whatever your north node is here. 18 degrees Taurus. So 18 degrees Scorpio would be your south node.
Scorpio. Okay, so what is that?
Scorpio is intense.
Yeah.
Still waters run deep. It's like the Scorpion and the Phoenix. And so there's a lot of like death and rebirth. And actually I was looking at my midheaven and I have a Scorpio Taurus midheaven IC. So I was looking at these things. And so another thing about Scorpio, they're just like the deep dark goth of the zodiac, like Marilyn Manson, but like also want to have like ultimate power and control, but also are like deep soulmate relationships. And so
is Scorpio a water?
It is water.
Okay.
So water and earth, they're like opposites. So Scorpio's like, I'm gonna go on this epic quest and like kill myself to learn this thing, and I'm gonna kill myself for other people. And Taurus is like, hey, I just want to like eat ice cream.
Yeah, it's home. Like time to celebrate.
Yeah, like so let's just chill. And so maybe you could say like in a past life or even in this life, you've gone through like really intense, heavy, like transformations and like having to give a lot of things up and recreate yourself because there's the Phoenix, so there's like this
reinventing.
Yeah, and so your future is to be able to just chill and like have maybe a more boring life.
Yeah, sounds great.
Like you don't need all the spiritual
I'm done
stuff.
with the drama.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, yeah, that feels pretty true. That's a cool, relatable thing. And this is different than yours though, right? Yours was Sag. Okay, gotcha. Cool.
Like I've traveled and I need to hang out in a city.
Okay, the other one I'm curious about is Chiron then.
Chiron, there's a couple things about, I feel like there's more than one Chiron, but one is like a comet.
We're both Chiron Gemini.
Yeah, because those move very slowly and our birthdays are...
Because Chiron isn't that one of the planets out in the Kuiper Belt?
Or maybe that's what it is. I think there's like a comet Chiron, and then there's maybe some other celestial object.
Yeah, I feel like I should know that, but I don't.
I know more about like the what it means metaphorically. Chiron, there's a story about Chiron being a centaur who is like half god, half mortal, and was like a doctor.
The wounded healer.
Yeah, and so was like a sage, was very much, I think, like Sagittarius, like someone who had a lot of deep wisdom and cared really deeply, and people would always come to him all the time to like heal his things, but then one day he was like accidentally shot by another god with this like poison arrow in his leg, and because he was like half human and half god, it didn't fully kill him, and he wasn't fully immune, and it was just like this pain that he had. It never fully healed, and it tormented him, and he had it for the rest of his life. But because of all the pain that he had in this wound, it gave him so much wisdom and compassion for other people, and he was actually able to be an even more amazing healer and wise person because of... So Chiron, like where you have Chiron in your chart is like, where is a place where you have a deep wound that will continue to give you gifts?
Oh,
that you're like, cool. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to have this wound, but here it is.
Yeah, like, so for you, how would you describe that showing up?
So
it's a Gemini.
Chiron and Gemini. Gemini has a lot to do with communication and like I said, like the small town. Yeah. And so one way that Chiron and Gemini comes up for me is stumbling over my words, having a hard time talking, feeling pent up and frustrated in small community or like small city, and wanting to like get out or just like I'm done talking. But through the process of me learning how to be better at communicating, I actually inspire other people, and my words actually have a much farther impact than if writing never was hard for me. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, like it's hard, but you've worked on it, and so you've gained a lot more knowledge through that.
And I mean, you and I are both teachers, so we know like some of the best teachers are the people who struggled with something.
Yeah.
When it comes easy, you almost kind of throw it away. You're
totally.
like, oh, no big deal.
It's easy to understand when students are struggling. Mm-hmm. Because I remember struggling. Yeah.
So maybe actually I wonder if that makes us good teachers in a way.
Having the Gemini.
Yeah.
Chiron.
Like being able to think a lot about how do I communicate this.
Yeah, totally. The next thing I want to ask is, I'm assuming, because I know I'm like Cancer ascending, so I think that's what the AC means, right? Mm-hmm. Well, so here on my chart, I see the ascending is at the horizon. Mm-hmm. And then this must be the descending. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Okay, so for me, mine is... What does ascending mean?
So when you look at the chart, imagine that I can imagine it's almost like looking through like a scope, for a gun or something, and you're seeing a view with the Earth, the horizon, and the sky, and but the Earth is turning and rotating through space. So you imagine that where the ascendant is. That bit is rotating into view, into the sky, and then this is descending below the Earth.
On the horizon.
Yeah, so your ascendant or your rising sign is literally what is on the horizon and is rising.
Okay. And for me, that's Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, that's Capricorn.
Yeah, we're opposites.
Whoa. So how does that show up? So I'm assuming... Maybe to go back, the sun sign, which is the one most people know, is the one where it's like your outward expression of personality.
Yeah, it's an easy way. One way I've thought about it is like how seasonal things are. Mm-hmm. Like I have a theory, and it's not totally true, but people's favorite season is the one where their birthday is. Because
I like spring.
Because we all kind of, it's a special time. It's like the time of year that is like important to us. And it kind of changes. There's like a way that your personality, people who are born in the winter, like I imagine people who are born in the spring when there's a lot of abundance around, they see life in a certain way. Like their first impressions of the world are like, oh, everything is blooming, and then people are born in the wintertime. Maybe it's like colder and you have to survive and stuff like that. And so I think of like the sun sign as like a simple temperament that's a easy general summary.
Okay, so like Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo are like these like spring, summer.
Yeah.
And you would say, generally speaking, those archetypes tend to be like more, I don't know.
Maybe like more...
optimistic or...
Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
Playful. It's hard because there's probably a few in there too.
But yeah, it's like the maybe winter, fall and winter halves have to be like harder striving and more motivated and like kind of get through the tough times.
Gotcha. Okay, so if that's the sun sign, if the sun sign is like your outward personality, like I think the three main ones that most people always ask for or seem to be the most important for some reason is the sun, the moon, and the rising, which is the same as the ascending or the ascendant.
Yeah.
So what would the ascendant represent?
So the way I've heard it, the ascendant is how you act under stress, under pressure, or if people meet you, it's their snap, quick assessment of who you are.
First impression kind of thing.
First impression, yeah. And I kind of think of it like, for me, is like, so I'm a Leo sun, but a Capricorn ascendant, and so Leo is the temperament where I'm just like, everything's happy. I was born and it was like the middle of summer and I'm happy, but I also grew up in a military family that's like, you need to get all this stuff done, and I have to be like really hardworking and industrious. And so when I'm stressed or somebody first meets me, like I've been taught that the first impression is to be like a hardworking and diligent person. And so people see me and they might think, oh wow, she seems really like a Capricorn. But then after they get to know me a little bit, they're like, oh, I see the lightheartedness side and I see the Leo come through.
Okay. So for me, Cancer and Gemini. So Cancer is more like emotional and
mother.
like mothering or something, nurturing.
Emotional,
and then
tender,
Gemini
homemaking.
What could you tell me more about Gemini? Because the only thing you've said so far is like this small town community communication stuff.
I'm like thinking of Instagram. This guy who does these Benito does these great videos of different archetypes, and Gemini is like likes to talk a lot, has a lot of information, is the one who knows all the gossip and knows everything about, is like super socially linked to everyone.
Okay.
Like you as a Gemini know everybody, know everybody's drama, and like you could use that.
I'm only the first day of Gemini.
I mean,
I don't identify.
You're on the cusp with Taurus, so you're not
yeah.
as intense. There's a whole other thing about like the weeks of there's like 4 weeks, you know.
Yeah, totally.
And so you're like at a different stage of
I've always
evolvement.
struggled because I feel like Gemini is already like supposed to be 2 personalities, but then like I usually identify more with Taurus, which is like the day before my birthday.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hold all 3 of those personalities. I don't know what the 2 personalities of Gemini would be. It's almost like I almost think of like the flighty, upbeat, like flaky butterfly, social butterfly, and then the like moody, like I don't know what do you think of like the 2 personalities of Gemini? Is there? Because they always say they're the twins.
When I think of like two-faced, it's just like polarity of anything. But also like in you, I know it's like the ability to be able to see both sides of a perspective and say, oh well, I don't fully agree with you, and I don't fully agree with you. I can kind of dabble in both.
Totally, and I have that a lot where I have a hard time like really deciding on an opinion because I can see both sides like almost too well, where it's like, well, there's this and then there's this, and like someone listening to me, it sounds like I'm having like 2 people arguing over something. So it's a fun life. It's Gemini life. It's funny because I don't have that many friends that are Gemini, and I'm curious about that. But I do have like a weird like slight aversion, maybe.
I'm trying to think about if I know other Gemini people, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if everyone has that about their own thing, because for me, Leo is also a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, I bet.
A lot of people love and really hate Leo.
Yeah.
For very different reasons.
Leos are like bombarding my life.
Yeah.
Like, I have so many Leos in my life, and this is another just random side topic that I think is so interesting, is that I've been mapping out the more I'm like getting into thinking about like what sign different people are just for fun. I'm like thinking like, okay, in my family I have my mom was a Sag, my dad was an Aquarius, my sister was a Leo, and my brother's a Cancer. And those
he's the odd one out then.
Yeah, why are the rest of them
like elementally you have like fire and air.
Yeah, totally.
Water.
Yeah, but then I have all these Cancer. I have Cancer moon and Cancer rising.
Nice.
But I've noticed like specifically, so my mom and my sister are the 2 like women in my life, and I've noticed that almost all of my close women friends are either Leo or Sagittarius, and it's so
that's
weird.
Right, yeah.
And then I'm dating a Leo, and there's just a lot of Leos in my life. But then I have these random like kind of other kind of side characters in my life, friends that I have. And now that I think about it, most of them are men who are either Cancer or Aquarius, which are my dad and brother.
Nice.
So anyway, I just was like, there's obviously outliers. Like I have a good amount of like Libras and a few Aries here and there. I don't have very many Gemini friends though, and I don't have very many Scorpio friends.
Okay.
And this isn't to say I don't want to be friends with those people. I'm just noticing that of my closest friends, like I don't have that many Capricorn.
Right.
Yeah. A few Virgos, but not very many. A few Pisces, but not very many.
Awesome.
I feel like I've had a lot of Pisces roommates.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And then George is a Pisces, my dog.
Oh, yeah.
And Nala is a Gemini.
There you go. She's your Gemini.
Yeah. She's my one Gemini friend.
I always, like, not always, but often that's, like, my thing.
What are your family things?
My mom is on the cusp. She's September 23rd, so that's like Virgo, Libra cusp.
Gotcha.
And then my sister is the 26th, so she's a Libra.
So 2 like Libras.
And then my other sister is a Capricorn, which is my ascendant, and I think my dad's moon is Capricorn. And my dad is a Sagittarius, but then I just found out I have a birth father who's a Cancer Leo cusp, July 23rd.
That's a whole other video.
And then my
stepdad.
stepdad.
He's a Cancer Leo. So first day of Leo?
Yeah, July 23rd. So he's like maybe the second day of Leo.
Oh,
it's like right on the edge.
Whoa.
There's also a little bit of question mark about when is the first day.
Those cusp
signs.
Yeah, those are tricky. Okay, the last one I want to ask about. So we have the sun, the rising, and then the moon. So how come the moon is always included in that triad? Why is it so important?
So one thing they say about the moon is it's your subconscious self, or it's like the stuff that's going on, the programming in the back of the head, or even your like deep emotions, things that you don't necessarily let show. But you can see them over time in someone, the way that they like care, get worried, or even just like the background chatter in their head. You can see that in there. So like I'll say my sun is in Leo, so like a lot of people will see this like big creative personality, lots of energy and excitement. Though my Capricorn Ascendant means that like when I'm stressed and when people first meet me, they think I'm like really hardworking because that was instilled in me. But then like all the stuff that's going on in the background of my head when I'm like deep in my own thoughts is Virgo, which is like super analytical. So I have this like weird sandwich really between these two.
Virgo and Capricorn, how are they different? I feel like they're both Earth.
They're both Earth signs.
And then the other Earth sign is Taurus.
Yeah. One way that I would describe the difference between them is thinking of the houses they rule, which is the 6th house for Virgo and the 10th house for Capricorn. And Virgo is like super meticulous, and the 6th house is all about your daily habits, like your routines.
Whoa, okay.
And it's ways that you're able to care for your body by like showing up every day, make sure you brush your teeth every day, and
like
do a little exercise. Yeah, like those little things that a lot of people don't think about. You know, people make fun of Virgo, like Hermione in Harry Potter is Virgo because she's just like actually specifically this thing.
Yeah, okay.
Capricorn is the 10th house, which is all about your career, and it's
so
the hard-working father that's like the top of the CEO of the company who's like, we're gonna get this shit done. People don't, he's not necessarily compassionate or nice, but he's like, make the deal, you know? And so they could work together. Like, I bet that Virgo could be like the bookkeeper who's like managing all the like little details for Capricorn the boss.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any Virgo. Which one's Virgo? That one? No.
This is Virgo. One. Virgo is like shy and closing their legs. So I think
that's so funny. But look, none.
Yeah.
Except for whatever this is.
But 6th house is ruled by Virgo, and it's Sagittarius with Neptune in it. I got these two. My moon is like right on my mom's sun. That's another thing that I've looked at before is like my chart versus my mom and my sisters. And I've noticed some like similarities. Like my mom's sun being on my moon means that her outward personality has like injected itself in my subconscious. And so all the stuff that she did growing up was like super like worrying and meticulous, and like Virgo is also like of service and like whatever you want to do, I'll do these, and like that just like saturated me. Gotcha, and that's what I'm doing in the background all the time is like, oh, I'm going to help you, I need to like get my habits working better.
Gosh, we have so many different personalities in our psyches, and this is such an interesting way to like, because I've been reading that book again, you know, Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Oh, yeah.
And in every story she reiterates that, like, in the story there's a bunch of characters and there's a bunch of symbols, but they all represent different parts of your psyche. In some ways, we all have some level of multiple voices. Absolutely. And I think we've all experienced that. Like, I mean, I already admitted that I especially do, so I must have major issues. Just with my... seeing both sides, like seeing all the different. I'll have this voice that's like, well, what about this? And then, well, I don't know about this. And having these different parts of yourself, like having that like masculine and feminine aspects, and having the wounded inner child versus like the higher self, and having all these different. It kind of reminds me of a similar like lens or map as looking at it this way is like seeing that. You're not just your sun sign, but you have all of these aspects in these different realms of your life. I think that's really cool.
And it's fun. One of the things I like about it is you can play with, I mean, I like to wear different outfits and get into character, and it's like this, you get to choose who you want to be. And it's fun to put on like all 12 different outfits or all 12 different archetypes and see what like other things. You might not even realize some parts of you come out that you've never expressed before.
Okay, I have a question about the chart. I have these green lines. Well, so there's the red and the blue, and you have the red and blue, and I guess you do have green too, but I feel like I have bigger green lines than you. Do you know what all those lines are?
Yeah, so they are the colors relating to the angles between them, and so there's some made-up rules for the different angles.
Okay.
And so blue is good. It's like these two planets in different signs. The angle between them is a complementary energy and is helpful, like they're in the same team. And then red lines are difficult, challenging. It's like these two people are like getting in a fight, or there's like an opposition is like a tug of war. And then you have this other energy that's a quincunx, 150 degrees, and it's kind of a weird. You're kind of looking at the other person like, I don't really know what to do with you. Like you're not opposite of me. You're not like challenging, and you're not helping, and it's
so
kind
different.
of a weird.
Is that the dotted line?
It's the green ones. And when you have two of them in this form, it's actually called like a yod, almost like a finger of God. And it's like the energy is
pointing at my sun.
So
the green, my sun has these weirdnesses around Pluto. Is that right? Pluto and
Neptune. Yeah.
Which are both far out. Those are the two farthest out planets.
And they're sextile to each other. So sextile is one of these.
The blue.
The blue is sextile and trine. Green is this, which is quincunx, like 150 degrees. And then opposition is 180 degrees and square is 90 degrees. Are the challenging ones. So something about these two planets, it would be cool for you to look at. What is Pluto as an archetype? What is Neptune as an archetype? What is Pluto in the 4th house? What is Pluto in Scorpio? What is Neptune in the 6th house? Neptune in Capricorn. And then look at how that like feeds into your sun.
Or how it's like different.
Yeah, it's like these two guys somehow are hanging out with each other in their own houses and signs, and they're on the phone, they're having a conversation. They're like, totally, I agree, This sun guy is weird, and there's something about these aspects within you that are informing and like pointing to and helping your sun. But they're like, I don't really understand the sun person. We got to do something about this. And both of these guys are like back and forth.
Well, and then I noticed right between them is this Saturn that's pointing the red. Right?
That's right. That's almost like the center of your yod. So that's like a little interesting shape that you have there. So that would be cool to look into each of those aspects.
Okay, cool. So the red is sort of, I have another red between the moon.
Yeah.
Cool.
So each of these things you can look up. This is what I've done a lot of, is I've looked up each of these individually, and I can Google, like I would Google Pluto in the 4th house, Pluto in Scorpio, Saturn in Scorpio, Saturn opposite sun. And what I do is I kind of layer those.
Whoa.
And I'm like, okay, this plus this plus this. Okay, now I kind of...
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Is that all? Can I find that on astro.com?
You can literally type into Google any of those things, and then I go and I read a bunch of them.
Oh, okay.
And I pick and choose which one I like best.
Do you have like certain people that you follow, like on YouTube or on
not anymore.
blogs?
I've done a bunch of different things. One thing that comes to mind that's really fun is if you want to, there's a few people I appreciate that like act out the different archetypes.
Oh, I love that.
So
yeah.
Deborah Silberman is one I really like on YouTube, because she has a video where she's embodying Leo. She's embodying Gemini. And you can see, like, I can watch the video about Leo, and she's like, look at me, don't I look fabulous? And then Gemini's like, okay, I just got so many things to tell you. I just have so much information right now. And it's talking nonstop. And then Scorpio is just like cool and mysterious. I know you want to know about me. And I just love that. Or there's a guy, he's got to be like 23 on Instagram, Benny Drama or something, and he just randomly will make different videos that is the different all the different signs are talking to each other, and it's lighthearted and fun. I like that because I mean, I think you and I probably both know with our signs, like, it's good to, like, see both sides.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's some good and bad in it.
Yeah,
it's good to be able to laugh at yourself a little.
I've always liked Leos.
Oh, good! Yeah. I have not always liked Leos.
Yeah, I can understand.
Leo's tough.
I think something about, it's interesting because I think the critique maybe of Leos would be, like, some kind of, like, boastful or self-centeredness or something.
And being a tyrant, being like, it's like when the Fire Nation attacks, like Zuko, you know,
okay.
is like,
He's a Leo.
I'm in charge!
Okay.
You know, like the tyrant
that part
that's
is annoying.
like super passionate, angry, fiery.
But the confidence aspect is always like, I always find it really inspiring and like, wow, you can do that, like I can do that. Like it almost like gives me permission to be... So maybe there's something there with Gemini and Leo.
I was going to say that's a sextile relationship. So that's another thing when you look at one easy way to think of it is the easy complementary angles, trines, and sextiles are with both elements of the same gender. So if there's 4 elements, you know, air, earth, fire, water, air and fire are both masculine. And so any of the signs of those 6 are supposed to work together in some way.
Okay, cool.
And then earth and water similarly. So like we're both masculine elements. And so our sun sign is. Yeah. And so that means on the surface in this way we get along well. And all the people in your family except for your brother are all air fire. So they're all in these complementary angles.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So for example, Leo is square Taurus and Scorpio. So, like, there's jokes. Oh, there's another Instagram guy. Someone being like, oh, I can't even. This guy's a Scorpio, and I'm a Leo, and so it's just not gonna work. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, those people are really like Scorpios to me or Taurus to me could be really frustrating, but also like intense passion. Yeah. And intense like. After that frustration, you learn so much, and there's ways to like make the most of any kind of person. And
so for me, that would be like Virgo.
Is that what is 3 signs away? Yeah, that's right.
And then
the opposite of Pisces.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
Those seem true. My 2 roommates are Virgo and Pisces. Oh. Yeah, but so far so good.
Okay, cool.
It's funny because it's becoming Virgo season right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like sharing a lot of memes with them about Virgos.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to get a hold, like a lot of the archetypes are like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Right. Some of them I'm still getting to know, and like Virgo's one of the ones where, anyway, even the memes were kind of confusing me. Some of them, were like grammar Nazi kind of person, and then some of them were like, all over the place. I don't know. So it's hard for me to figure out what the Virgo archetype is, but maybe that's part of it. It's hard to figure out what they're like.
It's the person that's like super meticulous in the details, cleaning all the stuff. Almost like obsessed with cleaning things.
And like organization.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, totally.
What other like archetypes have we not really talked about? So I think we've talked about
so many.
Pretty much all of them. I just want to make sure we cover it, but maybe we can make another video where we just go over the archetypes. We could do a little acting out.
Oh my god.
That'd be so fun. Is there anything else like on my chart that you want to like mention? Any last notes that you find interesting?
Let's say that I look at this chart for the first time. How would I start? I would probably start with Sun, Moon, Ascendant. I would maybe look at if you have clusters of things together. I think after like 4 or 5, it's called a stellium, and it means like this is super important in you, and you need to look at it.
In Gemini and Taurus,
and they're all in the 11th house, and the 11th house is ruled by Aquarius, so you could look at Aquarius as an archetype or the 11th house as an archetype. The 11th house is like greater community, is like how am I impacting the world, and I'm gonna create this whatever this thing is, my political movement or my humanitarian the movement thing. So there's something about that that's really important to you, and you get to decide how that shows up.
Wow.
But
with
you
all
can't
these
ignore
different planets.
It.
Yeah. Now I want to print out Tanner's chart and just basically study all my friends. Now I understand why you have like a whole drop-down menu of everyone.
It's really fun, and it's so open-ended that you can do any of it. Like, I guess I'll say what I said to you earlier is, what I like about it is I don't feel like our current society has a really good system to talk about all the weird dynamics and things that come up with people within ourselves. And so our astrology is really nice because you're just creating some verbiage and like a template to be able to express and explore these. And so it's so complex that you can deep dive on any one thing and get so much out of it. And I like to take whatever the thing is and put my own spin on it and say, this is how I feel about this. And it's just my own system of talking. So
yeah,
it helps me to parse through it and think about if I'm having a fight with a friend, I'm like, that's totally your Venus and Aries thing coming out. And I mean, who cares? Maybe it's not, but it gives me a way to think about and to process whatever that is.
Yeah, something that's funny is that we're both like really sciencey people. Like the reason we know each other is because we're both science and math teachers. Yeah. So, or at least you were. And it's interesting because there's definitely like a stereotype of like if you talk about or believe in astrology that you're like non-scientific. Right. And so I just like to think of it as like this fun kind of thought experiment, almost like a lens. Like I'm like looking through a new pair of glasses at the world. Like I said, I already like follow like a lot of Jungian psychology, which is a lot of archetypes. So it's not that different to me to look at, and whether or not it's like real or like if where the planets are actually like matters or changes who I am as a person. I don't know. I don't really like feel strongly about it. It's more of like a tool of like as I'm looking at things, does it like feel true or not? It's sort of like a way to look at things. That's gives insights. Whether or not you agree. Like, there's times where I've read, like, horoscopes, for example, that are like, this is so wrong. Like, it says, you're in a really hard time in your life. And I'm like, I'm actually having a great time. Like, you're wrong. So there's times where it doesn't really, like, fit. But it's still always a good thing to, like, sit down and reflect on whether or not it resonates.
Yeah, it's like I think of astrology from a personal use instead of, like, predictive. Like, there are people, like the Vedic astrologer I went to, who very much will take all of this and predict out, these are the influences. And she even, like, I asked her, when am I going to find my partner?
Oh, yeah,
She's like, you're going to be in this Jupiter period in 2013, that's when you're going to meet him. And that's when I met Boris.
I know, I remember. Didn't work out,
I don't think it's useful to, like, personally, and maybe I'm just not good at it. I wouldn't use it to try to predict things, but like I said to you earlier, I think, therapists or psychologists have said that a lot of times if you just have all these emotions and things that are stuck, being able to put words to them and to express them actually helps you move through them. And so astrology is a system, one of many, that gives you words and language to talk about things that our culture really doesn't have another way to talk about very well. And so it's just very freeing to play with the concepts and ideas with it. And it's helped me a lot to like process my emotions and my thoughts and frustrating relationships with other people. Sometimes it's easy to step back and like, I see this pattern. Okay, it's not just this person, but it's this larger thing. So
pattern recognition.
It's like a really nice tool to help with that.
I'm just realizing another thing that we could both nerd out on is Myers-Briggs personality types.
Yeah. That's another one.
That's the next video.
Yeah, right?
Thank you so much for telling me about myself. I learned so much.
Let me tell you who you are.
But it's interesting because it's all is like aspects that maybe I just wasn't aware of. So it's cool, and I kind of want to just like keep looking at this chart and see what I can get out of it. I like that it's colorful. Cool. Until next time.